Thank you, PJ, and Happy New Year. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan. We've got Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com, Chip Scoggins from Football Across Minnesota, and at times today, Gigi, the Scoggins dog, might make an appearance, which is always great. We are brought to you, as always, by our great partners at Jack's Cafe, JAXCafe.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it right there on the bottom on the scroll. Would love for you, even though the holidays are over, to maybe take advantage of some nice winter weather and go hang out at Jack's, our great partners for a long time. Happy New Year, guys. How's everybody doing?
I'm a mess.
You're a mess. Wow. I didn't think we'd have to unpack all this right out of the gate.
I'm sick again.
Off to a tough start.
Am I ever going to be healthy? I'm sick again. I got over strep throat. Now I'm sick again. I went to Chicago, come back with a cold. The damn dog's down there barking. My wife's gone to there's a thing now. If you're 55 and older, you can get a discount if you have to go through a class. So my wife's going to get insurance, a discount on insurance. She's gone. The dog's barking. The youngest one will probably sleep till noon.
Other than that, how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Oh, wow. Chipper.
Man. Well, Happy New Year.
Your opponent like 94%, not 102, so you're all angsty?
It's not even 8:30. What's my phone at? Let me see what's at.
I did not expect this. I'm not going to lie. I did not expect this.
No, I'm at 100. I'm good. I'm at 100. Let's go.
There you go. See, there you go. That's a little win. Now take that. Let's build off of it. Let's take the victory and let's build off it. So what, you're getting a discount on insurance for what? What's this class she's taking?
Yeah, if you're 55, can you hear the dog? Oh my god.
Yeah, don't worry about Gigi.
There's
Gigi's
somebody
fine.
Walking in the back.
That's what dogs do.
Apparently there's a deal where if you take a 4-hour class, so her and some of her college girlfriends, if you're 55 and older, you can get discount on your car insurance. And so it's like 55, great to be alive or something like this, and you have to go through a driver's ed thing or something.
Teach them how to drive again. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, discount on your car insurance, we'll take that.
That's what we have to look forward to, Burnsie.
So that's old people do.
You guys are making
they're fired up. This is the highlight of the week. They're fired up. They're going to save a couple of bucks a month on car insurance.
Absolutely.
We're going to a class.
As someone that's been paying college forever, I'll take the discount on car insurance.
Yeah, I'm with you. As someone who has 3 kids in sports.
Although so we got 2 off the payroll now. Our youngest just graduated. He's starting his job on Monday. We moved him to Chicago. We called to try to get him taken off our car insurance. Saves like $10 a month not having him on there.
It's not right.
I was hoping a little bit more than that. Right? Or am I?
You know what you need to do?
Am I naive?
What you need to do is you need to call Burns Insurance Agency, talk to Bill Burns, Ryan's father. Boy. He's an independent insurance provider, and he can save you thousands of dollars. I hear it every week on Gopher Gridiron podcast. Your poor wife doesn't need to be sweating out this class. Just call Burnsy's dad. Right, Ryan?
That's all you got to do.
I know where it is because where we take our dog to the vet, speaking to Gigi, I was sitting there one time waiting to take her in. I looked across the street, and I'm like, Burns Insurance. I wonder if texted Burns. He's like, is that your dad? He's like, absolutely is. I know where it's at.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, you knew too it had to be Burnsy's dad because he had a permanent Happy Halloween sign illuminated on the front window. All right, so let's talk about. We got a lot to talk about because the college football season doesn't slow down for anybody. I figured on top of everything that you're going through, Chip, I don't think I've ever gotten more texts about somebody else and how they're doing than I did with the Koi Perich news and how's Chip handling it. How is day one? How is Chip returning? You know, how is he doing there? That's obviously the biggest news, right? This happened Thursday night, Burnsie, going into Friday.
About 10:30 p.m.
Yeah, it was one of those. I've had a couple of those in my life where you're trying to go to bed and then some big news happens. Last year it was Luka got traded to the Mavs. Or I'm sorry, to the Lakers while I was in Los Angeles with women's basketball. And it's like 11 o'clock Pacific, so it's 1 o'clock Central. I should be asleep. And it's like, did Shams get hacked? Oh, my gosh. Now I'm up all night thinking about Luka and how this is going to affect my favorite basketball team. But this was another one of those where I can't say I'm surprised because I haven't really talked a ton publicly about it yet. We talked a little bit about it on The Fan and a little bit on Enough Said. It's 2025, so nothing can ever shock you. It's 2026 now. Nothing can ever shock you in college sports. But I wasn't totally surprised. Burnsie, let's start with you. Kind of give us an update on what you've learned about it, what you've known about it, and what you think about it with the boy wonder, the kid from Esco, entering the portal, which is now official.
Yeah, I started to hear stuff about this even prior to, I'd say, Christmas, where it was me trying to figure out who signed behind the scenes but hasn't announced. And the rhetoric from people within the building was, we feel pretty good about Koi. He just doesn't want to sign until after the bowl game. He wants to focus on the bowl game. He's going to have a bigger role. He played the most amount of snaps he's seen on offense, defense, and special teams. And then the bowl game comes and goes, and it's still quiet. And then you're starting to be like, is this actually going to happen? Is he actually going to think about legitimately leaving? And then you get into the final 24 hours before the portal officially opens, and it went very, very quiet over there, which then my antenna really got up. I mean, I'd been talking about on Gopher Illustrated. I thought it was the wording I'd been using was more likely than not that he was going to be back. That's 51-49. I'd say in that last 24 hours or so, there was a lot of confidence that was lost. Obviously, he's now in the portal officially as of yesterday. But before I go any further into it, Chipper, how crestfallen are you?
I don't get crestfallen anymore about anything. I'm not surprised.
Listen to you talk about car insurance.
Well, I get crestfallen about car insurance for sure. I wasn't surprised. I'm with Gaardsy. We see, we can talk about it later. But we see a quarterback commit to one school, and 24 hours later he goes to another school. I mean, it's the wild, wild west, and so. And I will say, I think we all can say reasonably that he had a disappointing year or a subpar year. I thought my eyes said that, and this is beyond just the Cal game. I just didn't think he had that good a year. Obviously, it was going to be hard to duplicate what he did as a freshman. And I think we all got overreacted to him playing offense. But I went through, wrote down some stats. I went through PFF, not the Bible, but it's a barometer, right?
It's a tool. Yeah.
It's a tool. Koi's overall defensive grade from one year to next went from 88.9 to 62.4. That's a massive drop. If you look at Gopher defenders that played 300 snaps on defense, he ranked 10th in overall defensive grade. His coverage score went from 88.9 as a freshman to 57.7 this year. His tackling went from 74.7 to 51.4. His missed tackles went from 10.9. Missed tackle rate went from 10.9 to 21.5. So he doubled the amount of missed tackles he had. So it was a disappointing year for him. So I don't know if he's trying to rekindle or, my first thought was that he might wind up in Miami to reunite with Corey Heatherman and try to recapture some of the magic he showed as a freshman. But obviously it's a complicated thing because Gophers aren't in a position where you can just lose great talent. And even though he had a disappointing year, we still said, he's a great talent and great athlete. So and then on top of that, anyone who was in that stadium on Saturday knew that he was by far the most popular player on the team. During introductions, you look at what fans are wearing, clearly their most popular guy, and was kind of I would say this face of recruiting that PJ can convince the best players to stay home. But in 2025, nothing surprised me in college football. And when money's in play and all kinds of different factors, if he leaves, I won't be, I don't think anybody should be shocked.
Well, that's where I want to go is the emotional aspect of it. We can get into the on-field stuff, but it's the emotional aspect of, you mentioned it. Whether you were in Phoenix, whether you were in Dinkytown, whatever game you were at, the most popular jersey by far, wherever you went, was always going to be a Koi Perich jersey. Now, whether that was the split jersey, whether that was just a normal Perich jersey, I mean, I saw 80-year-old women donning Koi Perich jerseys in Phoenix. And now, for the first time since, I think, Bucky Irving, you've had a player you've grown attachment to, and it's even more so because he's an in-state kid. We've talked about the story, Ryan Day flying into Duluth, yada, yada, yada. But for the emotional side of it, Gaardsy, for the fans who feel betrayed that they put their time and their energy and even their money into the Koi Perich jersey and the merch and saying, look at everything that they did for him this year, bending over backwards to play him on all three. What would you tell them?
I'm sorry to the fans.
Yeah.
I would say I'm sorry. And I don't know if it's the turning of the new year or if I'm just getting older and more wistful, but a lot of the comments and just things, whether it's Kenny Dillingham, signing the contract and saying, we just need someone to stroke 20 million and we'll be good. Or this kid from Baylor that's already been traded by Tim Conley in the National Basketball Association is going to go play college basketball. And now this, maybe I've aged 30 years in 2 months, but this stuff is wearing me out a little bit because you're right. And that's what I said. I feel bad for the fans that bought into it because Koi's value was always going to be whatever it was tangibly. It was always going to be way more emotionally because he was from Esco. He was one of us. He had the bad moms, the club that came down. And that does matter to people, especially in college and especially in Minnesota. Doesn't Richard Pitino know it? To get the Minnesota kids. And PJ's been on this nice run, which, by the way, has continued after Koi. He's obviously got, the kid from Jackson County now is what we get to say, right?
Yeah.
because he turned down some blue bloods to come. Roman Voss. So I guess I would say, because it's tough being a fan because you've heard for 2-3 years, well, this is what we have to do. We have to, you got to pay the players, go to Dinkytown Athletes, buy the jerseys. Let's support these guys. And Gopher fans did that. They played their part. They played their role. I always joked about the last year when he made a special teams tackle. I haven't heard the Huntington Bank roar since 2019 Penn State when the public address announcer said tackle by Koi Perich. So his value is always going to be, and I do want to talk about the production and then the financial ramifications, but so his value is always going to be way more just optically and emotionally, and that's where it's a gut punch. And so you do feel bad. My 11-year-old was up when that news broke. We were watching, can't remember what we were watching, one of the college football playoff games, right? Because that's when it happened. And I told him, hey, Koi Perich is going into the portal. And he was bummed for 30 minutes. He didn't say a word. There's a lot of kids out there like that. So that's where it sucks to be a fan at times. And I don't know how that gets fixed because you invest, you show up, you buy the stuff, you buy the cups, and he doesn't have to worry about that with Anthony Edwards, my 11-year-old, right? He can buy the jersey and think we're going to get, at least a couple more years out of it, right? He still has a Karl Anthony Towns jersey. That one hurt. But guess what? We went and got we got a Knicks jersey, so now he's a Knicks fan too. Vikings fans don't have to worry about Justin Jefferson for a couple of years. Right now, if they have another crap year, maybe you get my point? College is unique right now in that your team is changing year to year, even with the stars. That you're being asked to invest time, money, emotion, all of it, and certainly money. And at the end of the day, the players don't have to return that. And I get it. They should get paid, and loyalty doesn't mean anything anymore. And I'm actually fine with that. But it does suck if you're a fan and you're trying to invest. And the other thing I want to talk about, and sorry for rambling.
No.
What I think part of the story that's being missed is, I got a lot of texts about Koi Perich leaving, as you can imagine. Burnsie, I'm sure you did as well, right? Yep. From people that I don't hear from ordinarily because he cuts through that. He transcends that. Part of the story, I think, I didn't get any texts after the Rape Bowl that said, hey, Anthony Smith's coming back. That's awesome. Because that could have been a coin flip too. Drake Lindsay, we all talked about that. I didn't get any texts about Drake Lindsay coming back, right? I didn't get any texts about Darius Taylor, which I think happened Friday, 12 hours after the Koi Perich thing. So, but that proves the point. He's the most popular one. But if you had a world where you've got 4 studs, you think, and 3 of them come back in 2026, to me, that's still a net win. But it just shows you the power of what Koi was to the fans and what Koi was to the observers too, because I heard from a lot of them, why is Koi leaving? Because it's 2026 and weird things happen, but it's too bad. Because I think Koi's given up a lot here too. We'll see where he ends up. And now he doesn't have to care about it. He doesn't need to care about it. But one of the coolest things I see every single Saturday on the field are former players and their teammates. And when they're 55 years old, that stuff matters to them, right? And so that's where I think a lot of people are losing out on that aspect of it as they go around. And so anyway, I know I said a lot there, but you guys can take it wherever you want.
No, I think you're right. You have to be calloused to be a fan of college sports right now, because you're right. Lead with your heart at your own peril, because it's liable to get broken if you fall in love with the player.
Yeah.
And you think he's going to be there, or her is going to be there for 3-4 years. Because it's when you introduce money, and I don't know that this decision is 100% all about money.
I'll get into it here once you're done.
Probably a big part of it, but, and I could be totally off on this, but if you ask me, I would be willing to bet that he would be $1 million player for the Gophers, just as I think Drake Lindsey is, and I think Anthony Smith is. Could be wrong, but that's my guess between revenue share and NIL. Yep. I don't know about Darius Taylor anymore. Maybe you could put him in there. I just don't know. But in terms of value, I would think those three, Drake, Anthony, and Koi. And you're right. I think the hard part for fans is they have given money. They have bought in. They've done all the things that they've been asked to do. Could there be more? Obviously, there's never enough in college sports anymore. But I think for a lot of people, they're probably stretching financially to give more so that they can retain players, and it's still not enough. And whether there's 4 factors, it doesn't matter. People are going to assume it's one factor, money, that he's leaving for more money. That's always going to be the perception. So, but this is college football, and I understand when people say, you know what, this stuff turns me off. I just don't have the same love that I used to have when I got to know players and we knew there was a little more stability in rosters and you got to see players grow and develop. And I've always said one of my favorite things about covering college sports is interviewing freshmen versus when they're seniors and just seeing how much they change in terms of their maturity. And I always go back to Adam, and it's particularly with quarterbacks because we talk to them every week, but I go back to Coop and Adam Weber and just seeing how much those guys grew into, like, kind of almost not nervous, but unsure of, like, hey, in their interviews, to where they're the leader, they're the spokesperson, they're the face of the program, and they just mature and handle it and change. So I don't know that we're going to get that anymore. Like, it's with just the fluidity of the rosters, it makes it different. I wrote a column at the beginning of this year that I said I'm not going to allow this new landscape to alter my love of college sports. Easier said than done.
For sure. Yeah, and you're right about and that's why I was so excited when we talked to Drake Lindsey last summer, because I thought, man, if they have this guy for 3 years, like, selfishly, it's great for us because the guy's interesting, he's thoughtful, he's a great speaker, like, he's clearly a good leader. Because Tanner Morgan's my favorite story on that when I talked to him as a redshirt freshman when he gets
Tanner in it, yeah.
And I'm interviewing him in the locker room after one of the games, and he's literally staring off into the distance, just saying, R in hyperculture is response, and we have to respond in this program. And he's not looking me in the eye, and he's not, like, because he's just so tense and so tight. Well, now the MFers sitting next to me on the Fox 9 pregame show, and he looks like he's been doing it for 30 years, right? Like, he's but that's 100% I can go down the list of my 15 years of people that you watch for multiple years, the Brock Vereen's, the Tommy Olsons, the Mitch Leidners, the Isaac Frichties. There's a team,
Yeah.
I have memories of him hopping over the fence to come join us at Siebert Field for a fall practice one time. Like, guys that you get to know, and not us specifically, but even just the fans that you get to know and have the shared experiences with and have the moments, that part makes it tough. And by the way, they're going to get that with Drake Lindsey, with Anthony Smith, with Darius Taylor, with other, all those guys that were on the 19 team. When those dudes come back, like, when Carter Coughlin comes back, he's living his best life on that sideline. When Kamal Martin's there, and if Bateman's back in town, or Antoine Winfield, like, that stuff it does matter. I do think it matters after football's done. And And that's what's too bad is Koi could have been and should have been one of those guys, right? Just beloved everywhere all the time. And, fans aren't happy, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them, even though I understand, because Koi is one of the rare guys that gets to pick his place and gets to pick his price in a lot of places, right? Like he can say, I want to go cherry pick a college football playoff team. I'll get a spot there. How many guys on the Gophers can say that? 4?
Yeah.
3? Like not a ton where you can just go Oregon, Miami, Ohio State. Okay, let's check it out. They liked me before. Let's go see. So I get it, but it doesn't make it more fun. It doesn't make it less frustrating if you're a fan, Burnsie.
Yeah, and that's where we are going to find out. Can Koi Perich do that? Because that's been one of the more interesting things for me to follow since the news broke on Thursday was, okay, where is he going? Because I don't necessarily believe it is all about money. Now, I know that if you were to talk to people close to him, they would tell you it's not all about the money. And my response back to them has been, so that means you're going to take a pay cut to go to wherever the next place is? And the response back to me is not necessarily. And my response to them is money is a language I think all of us can understand here. But the question is going to be, where does he end up? Because Koi is one of the most unique players I think I've talked to and covered, even going back to high school, because if there was going to be one guy who just doesn't really care what people think of him, it is Koi Perich.
Right.
And he is someone that doesn't necessarily care what the public perception of him is. He's very confident. He knows what he wants. And I think within this decision is showing that instead of staying here for 1 more or 2 more years and continuing to build your legacy where you could be the face of the NIL era where, like we've talked about, you look up in the stands, there's Perich jerseys everywhere. You get the biggest roar, and anytime you do anything, you get the biggest amount of applause. And I think the thing that I've probably learned the most from this is I think by the time we record next week, we're going to know more about where he ends up.
Sure.
But if you're going to make a grown-up decision, with that comes grown-up consequences or ramifications, however you want to look at it, where I think the 3 teams that were mentioned here off the rip when he initially entered were Ohio State, who was the number 2 for him coming out of high school. It was Miami, where Corey Heatherman had all that success playing center field for him in 2024. And then the other school I'd heard is Oregon. Now, as far as I'm aware, as we record here, I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. Is it Tuesday? Yeah,
Tuesday.
We record on Tuesdays. Yeah. I don't know that he's visited anywhere. Now, he finally just got his stuff into the portal yesterday, so now he can take visits different places. But the question is going to be, Chip alluded to it, he was set to be among the highest paid players on the Gophers. And his value here, as Chip laid out, it wasn't the year on the field that he envisioned, that Minnesota envisioned. But regardless of that, he was still set to be among the highest paid players on this team because his value is also being from Esco, Minnesota.
Right. There's a marketing price.
Yeah.
And that's baked into the entire money that he was supposed to get. Now, the other question I'm going to get, and I'm sure like all the 3 of you have, is, well, what if he just, reneges on it and wants to come back? I don't see a world right now where PJ Fleck and Koi Perich get back on the same page after something like this, where crazier things have happened in college sports and emotions and feelings change all the time. But I don't see a world that Koi Perich comes back. Now, they're also spending his money that was allocated in the portal right now. Like, they're going out and addressing needs like offensive tackle, like defensive line, like wide receiver, different places where in free agency, that is the portal, you need to spend up. You have to overpay. That's the same thing across the NFL, NBA, whatever your favorite sport is. If you have to overpay to get free agents, and now that his salary allocation is back into the portal pool, they're using it. Their actions are matching their words of, we don't anticipate Koi Perich back on this roster.
Well, I would be stunned if you say, oh, by the way, I didn't find anything, so I'm gonna come back. I just don't I don't see that happening. But you're talking about those blue bloods, and he's a terrific talent. We know that.
Correct.
But watching that Miami defense the other night in the playoff, he would have to raise his level of play to get on that group, because that defense that Corey Heatherman had playing right now is on fire and physical. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't fault a player if you're going to make a significant bump in salary. I don't fault you. If you want to say, you know what, I want to go to a place that's contending for national titles, I don't fault you. I mean, you have that option now. So, but as you said, there's, it comes with some risk. You may go to a place and not beat out somebody. You may go, I mean, you have a pretty good situation here. And I guess, I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like, well, there's more chances to go to NFL, at these other blue bloods. Well,
no, it's
Gophers
not.
Gophers. I know. Yeah. The Gophers. What is the stat? The last 6 years, they put somebody in the first or second round of the draft, and look at their safety. I mean, they've had 4 safeties go to the NFL. So that theory doesn't hold water. But I do get if you say, hey, I want to play in the college football playoff. I want to play, one of these glamour programs that are, in the top 5 all the time. Okay. And make more money. Fine. But in terms of, is the door open for him to come back? I guess you never say never, but it would be incredibly awkward for someone to say, I'm going to look around for something better. And I didn't find it. Can I come back?
Yeah. And to be clear, what I've heard about why he is entering the portal is what you talked about. He wants to chase a college football playoff title. Now, the question is going to be those 3 schools I mentioned. I mean, there's only going to be you can pick 16, 20 programs in the country that you can think that they're going to go there. But even as we saw with Penn State coming into the year, who was a consensus preseason top 5 team, they had it all rolling. And then they have to win 4 straight games at the end of the year to even make a bowl game. It's a risk. So the question is going to be, can he find that? And I hope he does. Again, I run the message boards. I'm aware of how angsty and emotional and people, want to just disparage. I'm not going to disparage the kid. He made the best decision that he and his family think. And again, even on my flight home from Phoenix, there was his family all donned in Gopher gear. They like Minnesota. They love Minnesota. But Koi is going to make the best decision for Koi. Now, the question is going to be, does it work out for him? I have no idea. Do I think he cares what the public perception of him is? Not necessarily. He's going to do what he thinks is best for him. But the interesting part is going to be just how does it all fit for him now? Because he wants to go to the NFL after 3 years. His on-the-field play, I mean, you mentioned his missed tackle rate. I mean, he led the Gophers in missed tackles last year. I mean, that to me is the biggest thing he's got to clean up. Now, does Miami lose a safety? Yeah. Does Oregon lose Dylan Thieneman? Yeah. Does Ohio State lose Caleb Downs? They do. But where is he on their boards? Because I've heard conflicting things about that. Because let me tell you, I am so tired of talking to agents, by the way, who are the kings of blowing smoke the cookies.
Be careful what you hear.
Yeah, and that's
as a guy who covered the NFL for years. Be careful 100%. What you hear.
And so, actions speak louder than words. And until I actually hear that Koi Perich is visiting one of those 3 schools, or at least somewhere, I am going to be very curious to see how this plays out.
How much do you think? I mean, I think there's money. I think there's, the idea of playing for a team that can win it all.
I think for him, it is about the most important factor for him in this is he wants to go chase a college football title. And I think that even that decision amongst his teammates, they're aware. And I think some of them are even just like, well, what do you think? What does that say about what you think about us? We've won 16 games here the last 2 years. You've been a part of that. We've been a part of that. We've lost games where, again, certain guys have been, the culprit for some of those too, where it's just.
Yeah, but if you're looking at like who has a more realistic chance, Ohio State or Minnesota, I mean, you have to.
I agree.
But how much I was going to ask you this, how much do you think in today's culture it's just sort of baked into, I want to try something different. It's kind of the fashionable thing to do to transfer.
Oh, this generation, you know better than anybody with your kids. Like, this is a generation that I feel like especially is so much more about experiences than any other generation previously, where Koi can now say, I tried the Minnesota thing. And I would argue it went really well for him. Again, you have jerseys everywhere. You are the most popular player on the roster since probably Rashad Bateman. Yet the decision to look at that as a kid from here and to then throw it away is one that I'm sure he didn't take lightly, but it is one that I don't know that I think I could make as being someone here. I know we always talk about on this podcast, and it's, again, Guardsy will tell you, hashtag one of us, but that has to be baked into a decision like this, Chipper.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, why do we think, and maybe we can't do this quickly, he didn't have a good year?
He did. I laid it out. He didn't.
I know. And that, like you said, you laid it out perfectly. The eye test, just the numbers, the impact plays. You know, we obviously remember the pick 6 from Purdue, the sack against Athan. You know, I can kind of pick him out on one hand here. That was surprising. Had a couple of returns that were okay. I know that's, there's a new special teams coordinator, right? So I know that's probably part of it. And PJ, I think, tried to get ahead of that early in the season. Remember, I don't know if you remember, he talked about the George Karlaftis production drop from his freshman year at Purdue. And there's some truth to that. Like, other teams aren't just going to go, oh, this kid was a stud as a freshman, let's just let him continue to change his best. Like, they're going to try to stop him. So, like, for Anthony Smith, for Koi Perich, for whoever it is, they're going to be on the scouting report. But what do we think it was that led to this pretty dramatic drops in production?
I think there's several things to it. I think teams said, okay, we got to know where Koi Perich is when we're game planning. 2, I just think splash plays are just hard to keep duplicated. It's kind of like turnovers. Like,
they're usually the same.
They're a hard thing. Yeah. They're one and the same, but and I think that's kind of where he had those splash plays as a freshman, the pick against USC, those type of plays where I think the idea that he's going to play 3 phases took away from maybe spread him a little too thin. I think he probably got too focused on the splash plays and lost maybe some sight of some of the fundamentals and being in the right place. And it's almost like he was trying to do too much in terms of, I'm going to go for this bad angle. Maybe he was not in the right spot. And like I said at the beginning, it was just going to be hard to duplicate what he did as a freshman year. I mean, he had a really high bar, like All-American, all the interceptions. To think that there wasn't going to be some regression, it probably was not realistic. And so I think it was a combination of all those things. Missed tackles were just, honestly, a lot of times there's just poor technique.
A lot of throwing shoulders.
Yeah.
And I almost think it goes back to fall camp where it was, we're going to do what he wants, and that's to play offense. And all I hear in the back of my head when I say that is a young man from Edina who now lives in Minnetonka saying he never sat down. Like, he just never had a chance to collect his thoughts or take a moment to breathe, where he just comes off the field, immediately goes to the receivers. Okay, comes off the field, goes and waits with the punt unit to go return a punt. And I think it culminates in that Cal game where he muffs the punt, game changes, flips on its head, they lose the game. And I think there was probably too much on his plate, but he wanted to have all that on his plate. And Fleck was trying to do everything he could to make him happy. And it just never really ultimately put it together, where even with safety play, I've talked with Derek Burns about this for a very long time. 80% of safety play is incredibly boring. It's just keep the ball in front of you and tackle, or keep the ball in front of you and make a play on the football. Like, you look at his 2024 and you look at his Big Ten leading interceptions, I think 3 of them were just end of game situations where he's playing center field and he comes down with it. Yeah, he had the diving one against UCLA, but when he led the defense in snaps, he played on offense, he played on special teams. I almost think there was probably, now in hindsight, and it's easy to say this, 2020 analysis, is there's just too much on his plate. So now at his new school, I don't know that he's going to be able to play offense. I don't know that he's going to be able to be the return man, especially if he goes to a quote unquote blue blood. They've got really, really good athletes too. And maybe they just want him to focus on defense to try and clean up the tackling, to try and have him play a really good center field. But yeah, it wasn't the season I think Minnesota, Koi Perich, and a lot of different people expected from him in year 2.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about with Koi? That was like 30 minutes on Koi Perich, which
I think we covered.
I think is appropriate. I think is appropriate. It was a good run. It was good to get him. It was good that he got 2 years here. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to end up here. But it is what it is, baby. College sports in 2025, as Chipper said, you got to be calloused. You got to be calloused. We've got coaches to talk about, more transfer portal stuff to talk about. We'll do that in a second. You know who has left a legacy? You know whose legacy is secure? You know who doesn't have transfer portal on the menu? Like you show up, whether it's brunch, lunch, happy hour, holiday party, company gathering, you're not going to look at the menu, which looks like it's from 1933, which is, again, part of the charm, at Jack's Cafe and see transfer portal on there. They've been in Northeast Minneapolis since 1910 with the original business, and they started the restaurant in 1933 and the bar, and they sustain, they remain, and you will never feel cheated by giving them your money like you might to college football players or college basketball players. You will say, how can I do this more? Are you sure it's only this much? I got this for that, all of this for that. That's Jack's Cafe. It's the exact opposite of everything we're talking about in college sports right now. It is rewarding. It is fulfilling. You know exactly what you're getting every single time that you get there. And that's why we are proud to be partners with them, Chip Scoggins.
I will say this. When you walk out of Jack's Cafe after having dinner there, you will not feel calloused. You'll feel happy.
Or shoot, when we had one of our listeners go on a first date there, Scotty sent us a photo of his old fashioned. He made sure to include. Now, there's not going to be a second date, but you know what? That's not Jack's Cafe's fault.
One of the two of them hit the portal. We don't know if it was a mutual decision or if it was the gal, if it was him. One of them was in the portal, I think, pretty quickly from what it sounded like, because looked like he sent that picture by himself pretty quick. So he was back at the bar and looked like pretty quickly. But what a great spot. Yeah, it's not going to work out. You know what will? Another drink at the bar at Jack's Cafe. It would be phenomenal.
Yeah, whether it's first date, anniversaries. Again, I've been there twice in the last 6 weeks. Went with friends, even took a 1-year-old the second time. Like, they have something for everyone. Service is great. The food is even better. One of our favorite spots, Chip.
And free parking.
And free parking, baby.
There you go.
And free parking. We read that last week. They had it in the 70s. They still
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you put that on there? It's one of the great draws.
There's no PSLs. There's no personal seat licenses for the parking. They didn't.
You're not circling. You're not circling. One of my, I just absolutely drives me crazy. If you go downtown, you got to circle the block. Oh, is that a spot? No, there's a fire hydrant. You can't park there.
It's $82 to park. There's a concert at First Ave.
Yeah, the space is not big enough. I'm like sizing up my car to see if I can parallel it. Now I can't get in there, and then you got to circle it. 2 trips around the block, then you're heading home for grilled cheese. Jack's, you never have that. You drive right up. There's 1,000 spots there. I love it.
JacksCafe.com, JAXCafe.com. I do want to talk about the coaches that are coming here, but let's stay with the portal thing quickly, because the other kind of offshoot on the Koi deal is, do you want to pay a lot of money for a safety because he's from Esco and he's good? Or do you trust, you know what, we're going to find somebody that's good enough there, and I think they have some guys, and we're going to use that money on the other plethora of needs that Ryan Burns at GopherIllustrated.com has been writing about for 2 months, and we're gonna reinvest that money. Like when you're in Burnsie, you won't get this, but you get it now, Chip. When your kid graduates from college and he's off the payroll, all of a sudden you still want to try to look for ways to save money on your car insurance, but you have a little bit more breathing room than you had when you were paying tuition. You know, when my kids got out of daycare, it's like, whoa, I don't have to pay that every single week now. Oh, but he's going to play hockey, so it's actually going to be more. But that's the point, is now they've got this money, and every dollar is spent now, as we know. Mm-hmm. But Burnsie, kind of give us the update as we sit here at 9:02 Central Time on a Tuesday morning. Seems like it's been fairly productive for the University of Minnesota in the transfer portal. What should we know?
that they're spending that money, or they're at least trying to, because you look at some of the biggest needs for this team going into next year, and defensive tackle is one that immediately comes to mind, where you're losing Senior Bowls, Devin Eastern, Jalen Logan Redding's gone, Nate Becker's gone, Rushawn Lawrence is gone. That's your top 4 defensive tackles that played in snaps. They're all gone. You do lose Koi Perich, but you mentioned it. You still have Kerry Brown. You still have Aiden Gooseby. We'll see what position he's at. I know that they like the young kid, Zach Harden, and you saw even him tweet out like 30 minutes after the Koi news broke, tweets out "my turn" with a picture of him. I'll tell you, there's no love lost here. I thought that was very interesting. They're looking to potentially use some of that money to add an impact corner, someone that can pair well with John Nestor. I mean, receiver is a big one, where they went out and got an SEC guy yesterday, and even offensive line, where they went to Knoxville, Tennessee, of all places.
Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, go get. I mean, that's one of their big swings so far, if not their biggest swing, was going to get a young man by the name of Bennett Warren, who was a former, I think, top 80 overall prospect just 2 years ago, played 17 games for the Vols the last 2 years as a true freshman, and then as a redshirt freshman. Again, they know that they need help at right tackle, so they went out and swung for one. They know they need help at receiver. They go out and get Perry Thompson, who's a former top 100 guy, who hopefully can buck the trend of Dylan Wright, Malachi Coleman. But just because you missed on those guys that are lottery ticket type of top 100 prospects that are still have some sort of production early on, I would argue more than the guys that they've taken previously, doesn't mean you stop taking them, especially if there's going to be new coaching at both of those kind of positions, more or less, with Isaac Frichting out receiver, but Brian Callahan's still here. That's where they're swinging at receiver. They're swinging at offensive line. They're swinging. They add a giant run stuffer yesterday in Naquan Crowder from Marshall. And then we'll see what they have to do yet here at D-line, at safety, at corner. Again, they're on some pretty good guys. The question can they close on them? But this portal stuff is just, it's so, I hate using this word, but it's so fluid. It's just 1 hour you get a phone call from XYZ guy saying, well, this guy's coming tomorrow. And then you get a text message 30 minutes later saying now it's canceled. And then by dinner time, it's back. By the time you go to bed, it's now on like Thursday. And it's just like
speed dating.
These schools, these agents, it is madness out here in these streets.
Well, those agents are playing schools against each other, trying to up the offer and get more and more. That's what they do. We see it in pro sports, and now we're seeing it in college. But yeah, I mean, I'll preface this, like, obviously you don't want to lose Koi Perich, right? I mean, great talent. They're just not in a position where they can just lose great talent. Regardless of how he played this year, we've seen him play at a high level. But anyone who has watched the college football playoffs knows that the two most important things you have to have, you better get a quarterback and you better be good in the trenches. I look at Indiana. I look at Oregon. I look at Ohio State. I look at Miami. These teams are beating each other up in the trenches. Look at Indiana. They got the quarterback and they got really physical in their trenches. Mm-hmm. That would be my sole focus right now. I think they got the quarterback answered. I would invest as much money as they could possibly get in the two lines and try to build out from there. Obviously, they need to upgrade their receivers, and that's going to be expensive. But to me, my money would be allocated to the trenches. I would try to be the best offensive and defensive line that you could buy. I mean, it's proven. That's the formula. Now, these playoff teams have more money to spend at cornerback, at receiver.
Yeah.
They don't have the money that these teams spent, but I would start in the trenches and I would allocate as much money as I could to those two spots.
I will say too, I am so glad that Minnesota doesn't have to try and pay portal quarterback prices where you saw, and by the way, I believe it to be 100% true from talking with different people around the industry, that Texas Tech's new quarterback is $5 million.
$5 million. I read that
this year. Or even the Josh Hoover kid who's going to be going to Indiana. I bet you it's around $4.5 million. I can assure you Drake Lindsey ain't making that here. Now, Drake Lindsey is well compensated, but I even look at the University of Wisconsin where they go out and get the Old Dominion quarterback. I bet you that's somewhere around, say, I don't know, two $2.25 million for 1 year. I mean, these are the prices out here where if you don't have a war chest, I mean, you're going to be, again, if you got to pay up for a quarterback, I think it's just like the NFL. I mean, that means there's other areas of your roster you can't address. And so to Chip's point, Minnesota knows they need to be better in the trenches. They're trying to spend money there. I tell you, the defensive line portal market is just insane for the prices because everybody needs them. Everybody wants to do the same thing Chip's talking about, but again, they're swinging. The question is it a Jason Tyner type of cut, or is it a Brian Buchanan type of cut? Chip?
You need to upgrade. You need to upgrade your references a little bit.
Yeah,
we're trying to reach the young people, Burnsie. We can't be dropping Jason Tyner bombs. Like, come on.
Is Ben Revere still with us?
Ben Revere, wow.
Yep.
It's amazing how much you love the Twins. Speaking of being calloused, you as a Twins fan, my goodness.
He is so bitter, isn't he?
Your calluses run deep. Yeah, no wonder you like Malort. It actually tastes good for you. It's the life that you've led.
Well, I take all these Louis Rivas type of cuts up there. I can keep going. This is one of my favorite games.
I know.
Obscure Twins from 2004.
Yeah, you could. I know you could keep going, but we're going to try to cut it off here. Is there a website that people could go to, by the way, if they wanted to get daily updates on what's happening with the portal?
Yeah, GopherIllustrated.com. It's been my life. My sleep schedule is so screwed. It is what it is, but portal stuff is fun. I just hope it's done by this time next week.
Well, January 16th.
When does it close?
The last day.
When does it close? Yeah.
It closes, I think, the 18th.
Which, by the way, the national championship is the 19th.
Love that.
Which, now I get it. Maybe a lot of players that are playing aren't jumping in the portal from whoever wins the national championship. But how can't they say, you know what?
That was wrong.
Okay, so it's the title game is 3 days after. So how does it not make sense to go, when's our title game? The 20th? Okay, portal closes the 21st. Or like you can put your name in, because and I know guys that are playing might not necessarily be in it anyway, but it just logically doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and they're working behind the scenes, like, hey, after this is done, I'm leaving my guys. But I saw I think it was Dan Lanning or somebody was talking about how awkward it was that they're preparing for a playoff and they're hosting guys coming in for the portal.
And Indiana's doing the same thing.
In Indiana, maybe, but
all of them.
It's the timing is weird, but we could spend an hour on what they do with the calendar.
Yeah, maybe we will in the off season. All right, we got some new coaches. And they're very familiar names. Mo Ibrahim is the new running backs coach. The old running backs coach is going to Wisconsin. Got a multi-year contract. I'd say that was a smart idea, unless you think you can convince Jason Eck to rehire you next year. And then Isaac Frichte, Caledonia's own, former Gopher wide receiver. What's interesting to me is it's not like he played for PJ. He played for the diabolical opposite and mortal enemy, Jerry Kill, back in the day. And yet he's coming home and very excited to. His dad's the legendary coach from Caledonia. Burnsie, you and I both talked to some people at North Dakota that absolutely rave about him, that absolutely love him. And I just remember covering him, how much I enjoyed talking with him and being around him. And he was one of their guys in that era, like one of the guys that could, catch passes. They didn't throw it a lot back in those days. It was tough being a wide receiver. I think about AJ Barker. I think about AJ Barker's mom's best friend. I think about Derek Engel. I think about all those guys. KJ May, but Isaac Frichte was a big part of those offenses, and he's done a nice job building his collegiate coaching career. And now he's back. He's back as receivers coach, Burnsie. What do we know about both of these moves?
You mentioned it. I was driving back from Kenosha, and I got to somewhere on Portage, and I got a phone call saying, hey, I think Jaden Everett's leaving for Wisconsin. So I look at my wife and say, hey, you mind going from passenger princess to driving here so I can get some work and stuff done? She was a trooper, and we appreciate her for that. But
I like how you go from working in your wife's house to working in your wife's car.
It is. I know my role. I know my role.
That's good.
But I am shocked that Luke Fickell can even offer multi-year deals considering his situation. And even, if you're Jaden Everett, Minnesota's former running back coach in that scenario, you're thinking to yourself, okay, if it goes well, great. But if it doesn't, I still get paid out. So what do I care? I still get a 6-figure payout at that point. So you get to see him be the second Gopher coach to leave Minnesota to now be on that staff at Wisconsin, joining Paul Haynes, who is a former Corners coach. And then you get Mo Ibrahim to come in, where Mo was at Kent State last year, his first year as a position coach. I talked to some people out on that Kent State staff to kind of see what they thought. Sounds like Mo is raw, considering he just doesn't have the experience of being a quality control guy or a graduate assistant, but he's really detailed. And for what I think Minnesota is going to ask him to do, which is just coach the absolute Katukas off of Darius Taylor, AJ Turner, portal back, whoever that is. I mean, that's something he can do, because Mo was never the most athletically gifted, the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, but he was a damn good running back. And so I think that's the hope there. Or even, like you mentioned, the Isaac Frichte thing. I even think the biggest thing there is Fleck actually moved on from Matt Simon. Now, why does that surprise me? Because their history goes back to when PJ was at Northern Illinois and Matt Simon was his receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, they have been together for a long time.
Yep.
Or even in the coaching industry, Simon had been with PJ since 2014 Western Michigan. And he made the decision to not renew his contract, bring in some fresh blood, some fresh ideas, because Isaac Frichte was the North Dakota offensive coordinator the last couple of years. I don't know when the last time was I got to talk about an RCTC graduate on this podcast, where that's where he came from before he was at the University of Minnesota.
You're right. Yeah.
I mean, he's an AFCA 35 under 35 guy, former offensive coordinator. So hopefully he can bring in some fresh ideas to bounce off Harbaugh. Just a fresh start for that receiver room. When you look at Lemeke Brockington piecing out before the bowl game, you look at 5 receivers immediately hitting the portal the day after the season. I mean, you have Jalen Smith and Javon Tracy, and then essentially then what at receiver? So I think a fresh start for that room is going to be good. But you get some fresh blood on offense, and they're most importantly for some of these listeners, one of us, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's covered Isaac knows he's a really good guy, right? I mean, he's just a solid individual. And you look at his coaching career, I think it's kind of progressed rapidly to where he's clearly doing something right to advance the way he has. But I look at PJ's staff, and there's been a number of changes here. So to me, it feels like a recognition by him that year 10, I need to freshen things up. I need just new faces in there. And I think it was necessary. I think it was needed. You know, the one thing you don't want, and I don't want to say that the program's stale, but you don't want that to get to that point where it's just the same coaches every year over and over. So I think it's probably a good time to kind of reconfigure his coaching staff and bring some new ideas. Obviously, you're going to have Mo is a new coach, and this is going to be a new experience for him. But, you know, with how great he was as a player, his personality, his attention to detail, how he just handled everything. It's not like you're asking him to be the offense coordinator today. You know, he's going to be the running backs coach, and he knows that well. So he can learn to be all the other stuff. I have to imagine he'd be a pretty good recruiter, just knowing his personality and all that. So I just think it was a good time to turn over some staff and get some new perspective in here. I think it's a good move.
I think the thing that people should know about all these moves, offensively, defensively, or even the new special teams coordinator who Fleck watched a kick return go straight up the gut against him in the Rate Bowl and said, you know what? F it. Let's hire that guy. Where Daniel DePrado's 2 biggest strengths are the return game, where Lord knows they've been absolutely horrendous for years, and then place kicking. I think when you look at what am I going to remember about the Bob Ligashevsky years? It's breaking Dragon Kesich and then going 2 of 7 from 40-plus yards this year and place kicking. So they've got you look at offensive, defensive, special teams. My point here being, the way I understand it, there's not a single assistant coach on a multi-year deal. They're all going to be coaching for their jobs this fall. And that's Greg Harbaugh, that's Danny Collins, and that's everybody on their staffs. And I think that all of them know that. I think that there's a sense of urgency to get everything fixed. And that is with some fresh blood in there, because I think there was probably some thought that if we keep the same people, the same things are going to keep happening. Okay, you change the people. Now are the results going to change? You and I and Chip don't know that for another 9 months, but they were at least Fleck was willing to have the difficult conversation with someone like, say, Matt Simon, where it is.
Right.
You've been with him for 20 years, damn near.
Yeah.
And
That's
that,
one
I'm
of his
sure
guys.
that sucked to have. And
Yeah.
I don't envy him, but guess what? It ain't personal. It's just business.
Well, and the way college sports are now, even, you could say this before, but even more so now, you can't get comfortable.
Yep.
Like, that's a bad spot to be in, where the person, you're doing the same things over and over, and then just like it's stale, comfortable, whatever the terminology is. Like, at some point, sometimes you just need to shake things up and try to get better results, because they need a new voice in that wide receiver room. They just do. I mean, it was, and there's nothing against Matt Simon. He's probably a great guy, and
he is really good.
And I never applaud someone losing their job. I mean, I never applaud, you're not celebrating that, but in that business, sometimes you need to shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, PJ said it in the fall that the passing game has an opportunity to be really special, and we shouldn't take that for granted. That's a direct quote, if I remember, because of the quarterback, because of 5. I think we can say 5. I don't think we can say 9 yet for the Vikings.
Yeah, don't say 9.
I think we can say 5. By the way, no one wanted to talk about J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. I was just there for 2 days, and no one wanted to talk about it. It's like, oh, should I talk about Sharon Moore? What do you want to talk about? Couple things, Burnsie. Number one, how many years do you think Gopher special teams have taken off your life? Just answer that as quickly as you can. Because the faces change. Yeah, too many, right? Too many. You've had a lot of stress there. Mm-hmm. And your other favorite topic is salary pool, because you've been on that for a while. To have a couple
money
guys
here again, baby.
Well, exactly. You have a couple of guys. Obviously, Mo is one of PJ's guys. I mean, A1 day one, right? Mm-hmm. He was committed to Western Michigan. That's how long that's been going. And then Frichty obviously has huge Minnesota ties. I do think that's helpful when you're trying to save money to get get coaches that you think are good that also have a tie to you. Now, these guys aren't volunteering. I say that all the time. They're not volunteering, but I'm guessing they're going to be among the lowest paid in their position groups in the Big Ten, right, Burnsie? That's pretty much a guarantee. I'd be surprised.
Water remains wet here at the University of Minnesota. News at 10.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's that part of it too. But also, you think it sounds good and it works well, and then Winston DeLatte-Baudere leaves for the NFL, and now he's coaching at Michigan State with Joe Rossi. So apparently the M does come off. They always say the M never comes off. Apparently it does. Come on, Coach Debo. But I do think that helps you, right? Like we were talking about Koi having the emotional, he got more money because of the emotional attachment. It probably helps in the salary pool to not necessarily have to worry about that right now, but have 2 guys that are going to be motivated to come back here and want to do a good job here because the program means something to them. So we'll see, but I'm excited about both of them. The Frichty one is intriguing, right? Because he's calling plays. Like, he's the offensive coordinator at North Dakota, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously it's a big jump from FCS, North Dakota to come to the Big Ten. But that I'm very intrigued by that. I'm very intrigued by all of that. Anything else coaching-wise we want to get to?
It's been such a whirlwind since we last.
I think you've done a good job organizing your thoughts and condensing them into
it's a lot.
Digestible pieces here for the Pair and a Spare podcast audience. Can we talk real quick? We should talk about the college football playoff in a minute here, but can we talk real quick about, you want to talk about a gut punch? Nebraska thinks they have their quarterback.
Oh.
They clearly identified that whoever it was, you could tell me. I don't run a message board for a recruiting site. I can't worry about every quarterback and every player that's going in and out of the portal and committing and then decommitting. But they clearly identified whoever they had, Nebraska, as their QB1. He commits, and now he's going to play for Kentucky. So tell me how that works, Burnsie, and how we should feel about it.
Portal flips at quarterback are wild work. Like,
yeah,
that's
tough.
That's crazy business where the Notre Dame backup goes to Nebraska, commits to them, but allegedly doesn't sign his paperwork. And then Kentucky comes in with their new staff, ups the offer, gets him to then sign the paperwork. And now Nebraska is allegedly choosing between Chip Sky, Aiden Childs, who got benched right before the Gopher game this year. I think the UNLV quarterback, the former Florida quarterback. I will continue to say it until I'm blue in the face. I want nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the portal quarterback market ever. Like that place is over. Like it is
a hard place to live.
So much money in there, and you just don't know what you're getting. Because if you're in the portal as a quarterback, there's probably some bigger warts than, again, because so many of these schools are willing to pay up the nose to keep their guys because they know what they have. And that's even where we talk about the guys Nebraska's trying to get. Dylan Raiola is still sitting out there on the open market. I haven't heard much going on with him either.
Yeah, portal quarterback, you're going to have to overspend because it's like, much like NFL free agents, you're going to typically have to overspend.
Right.
We talked about it all season. It became a narrative that PJ and his staff didn't have to do what they did and trust the season with a freshman quarterback. But man, if you do and you hit right, to not have to every year go into the portal to find a guy, the Band-Aid, the stopgap. Yeah, one, you can spend that money elsewhere, and two, you're not going to be 100% on that, and you're going to spend a lot of money, and you may fail. that's the double whammy. So it is wild, though. I would have used DocuSign.
Amen.
Yeah.
Don't mail the contract. Use DocuSign.
DocuSign, initial here, and you're good.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so now they're in flux. Like, where do they turn, right? And that's the other thing. There's going to be how many transfer quarterbacks in the Big Ten already? It's like a half dozen, right? And that's the way it was. It's the way it's been pretty much every year. In fairness and conversation, the Gophers had great success with a transfer quarterback.
Yeah,
2 years ago, right? But it's tough. I mean, it is very, very risky. And Sam Kahn Jr. This is a great title, by the way. He works for The Athletic. Senior writer, but he covers college football roster management and transfer portal. That's a beat now. That's a beat. In his most recent story, it looks like the cost of doing business in the portal. I'll just run through it real quickly. But QB, like Burnsie said, $1 million to $4 million, right? And in some cases, $5 million at the top end. Offensive tackle, $600K to $1.3 million. Running back, $400K to $900K. Receiver, $500,000 to $1 million. Tight end, $300,000 to $900,000. Edge rusher, $500,000 to $2 million. Interior D lineman, $500,000 to $1.5 million. Corners, $250,000 to $1 million. Safeties, $250,000 to $900K, which I think goes back to our Koi Perich, conversation. If you're paying north of $1 million for Koi, is that a smart investment for a program like Minnesota? I think you can make the argument it probably isn't, but those numbers jive with what you hear, Burnsie. I'm not asking you to doubt Mr. Kahn Jr. because he's in charge of roster management and transfer portal for The Athletic. That's his beat, but that's what we're dealing with right now. That's
starting money, aka you're expecting the guy to come in and at least play. And again, it's every guy is a little bit different in terms of what they're looking for. Because I've even heard some schools are offering multi-year contracts, which I don't pretend to know how that all works in terms of the legality of how do you get out of it. Because there's no CBA, but that's how expensive this thing is out there right now. Everybody's got the house settlement money. Everybody's got NIL money. So if your baseline is for all these Power 4 teams, $15, $16 million, that's how you got to be here with all these prices.
All right. College football playoff, by the way, is also going on. I don't know if people are aware of that. I got to say, and Chip, you won't like this because you're Mr. SEC. Wow, it was fun watching Alabama just get their ass absolutely handed to them at the Rose Bowl. You'll like that because you're a Tennessee fan.
I love that. I didn't mind that. No.
Because for all the SEC, as we know, thinks they should run everything. And Greg Sankey, the day of the game, is saying we should have had 7 teams in the playoff. And Kirk Cignetti's like, oh, really?
Yeah. Bad timing award there.
Yeah, how many? 7? You probably should have even had this one. And now, fairness, they won a game and they advanced to the Rose Bowl. So I'm not saying they're not deserving, but I'm excited to see where the next few years go because money is everywhere now. I do believe that it's evening things out. Now it's all consolidating at the Power Twos. And we'll see what happens with the Big 12 and the ACC and everything because Miami's going to have a say in this thing for sure. But I got to say, I loved it. And I think, the Big Ten is going to have a third national championship team because Indiana and Oregon are playing.
Yeah.
I really think that game is for the national championship, Indiana and Oregon. And I know Indiana's favored and they should be, but I will never sleep on the Ducks. Maybe I've lost myself in Autzen Stadium's eyes when we were out there, Burnsie, but there's some pretty unique, pretty cool stories right now going on in the college football playoff.
Well, Indiana to me looks like the clear best team. In back-to-back, not back-to-back weeks, but back-to-back games, they've taken apart Ohio State and Alabama. And just how physical they are. They do everything well. Like they're well coached, they're fundamental, they're physical, they're athletic. They got a great, obviously a Heisman winning quarterback. The two teams I've said I'm rooting for, Indiana and Ole Miss. That Ole Miss game was off the charts great.
Yep.
It was. I was so happy to see them win. Obviously, their quarterback's playing great. Miami's defense, the way Heatherman had that group flying around, I think I texted you guys. That group is playing as physical as you're going to see a group play. I honestly think, any of those teams could win it. And it would be interesting if we'll never get the data because they'll never, release the financials, but those 8 quarterfinal teams, where they rank in total compensation of their rosters.
It's pretty high, Chip.
Yeah. If they're not the top 8, they're probably 8 of the 10, right? I would think.
Yeah.
Texas Tech obviously bought their way in to we saw reports of $50 million. I don't know if that's accurate, but all those, we went from there's only a few teams that can win because of talent. They get all the best, now it's whoever has the most money is going to be there. And
it doesn't guarantee it, but it gives you a hell of a shot.
It doesn't guarantee it, but
baseball.
It doesn't guarantee it, but I think it's going to be hard to crack that. Now you can have a special season, but it's going to be hard to crack that bubble if you can't compete financially with those teams.
Yeah, and I think year one Indiana wasn't up there, but I think now 2025/26 Indiana is certainly within. I think probably the top 10 is top 15. Now I can tell you, even looking at what Indiana is doing in the portal here, going out and swinging for Nick Marsh, who like Nick Marsh is easily over $1 million. Or even they got the kid from Eden Prairie and Chidi Obaezer, who that was a pretty like they have the money now to go do it. But if you're asking me which of these 4 teams do I think actually does do it, I do think it's Indiana. I think Heatherman ends up getting past Ole Miss this upcoming weekend. And then I haven't seen enough of Carson Beck or out of Carson Beck to make me think he can make enough plays to actually win a national title. Like I've seen Dante Moore do, like I've seen Fernando Mendoza or even Trinidad Chambliss. Like he had the Ole Miss quarterback there had a 3-play stretch that was some of the most insane just leading your field, like team down the field type of throws and plays that you're going to see. Like you have the quarterback on 3 of those 4 teams. Now I know Miami paid up the wazoo to get Carson Beck. I think it was $4 million. Well, I hope $4 million Carson Beck shows up at some point, or else it's going to be, I don't know that Miami's got enough in the tank then. Again, Corey Heatherman runs an outstanding defense, but can Carson Beck do enough to actually get them over the hump? That's the question.
Chambliss was at Ferris State before Ole Miss.
How unfairest was that?
Yeah. Oh, you must be a writer.
Yeah, I must be a writer.
Can
you imagine him last year against that division?
Well, and I think about, obviously Indiana, as we know, has some big financial, stones right now. But there's a lot of James Madison guys still on that team too. right? And it's kind of like, PJ, when he brought, a lot of the 19 team was committed to Western Michigan. Like when you talk about Tanner and Mo and, just go down the list, there's some guys on defense as well, like Chris Ottman-Bell. There's still room for finding the ones that slip through and evaluating and finding guys that maybe are a little bit undersized or maybe don't have the metrics, or, just evaluating good football players, because there's a lot of James Madison guys that are about to win a national championship at the FBS level. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like that Cignetti, brought them there. And I even think, because people are, you think about Cignetti, like he's only been a head coach for 15 years, and this is his first Power 4 job. This is his first big job. Like, just shows you there's good coaches everywhere too. Like, and he gets his opportunity. It's not like people are like, well, just go, find your Cignetti. It's like, well, no one had found Cignetti. He was 60 years old and he was coaching in the FCS. Before that, he was at Elon and IUP. Go ahead and Google IUP if you want to know where it is and who it is. I think I know, but I'm not positive. Like, and obviously when you're a Saban disciple, which he was briefly when Nick got to Alabama, like he even said, that taught me more in 1 year than the previous 27. But this is not a lightning in the bottle thing. Like, they didn't hire, the Kenny Dillingham, hotshot coach, or the Dan Lanning even. Like, they hired a grizzled dude who'd been around the block and is making the most of his opportunity. And it was crazy being in Bloomington last week, talking to my buddy that does the games for the women. And he's like, yeah, no one really cares about hoops here anymore. Like,
it's football school.
He's like, he goes, we'll see how our crowd is, because it was 2 days before the Rose Bowl. He's like, we'll see. Well, it'll be okay. And they still love basketball. They got like 7,000 for the women's game, which is, top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten. And it's a great environment. But he goes, like, even for the men's team, he's like, Assembly Hall is like 70% full right now. Like, everyone's going out to the Rose Bowl and everybody's all in on football. And he says, it's just, he's an Indiana grad too. He says it's the funniest thing ever that it's just all about football right now in Bloomington. And I went to the bookstore and walked around, and there's Big Ten championship stuff and Rose Bowl stuff. And you're just like, man,
crazy.
Like, that should make everybody, like, there's a path. You got to find the right coach. And it's not like they outbid anybody for Kurt Cignetti when they hired him, right? Even the longtime voice, Don Fisher, was like, I didn't even know who he was. Don Fisher's been there for 50 years. It's like, I didn't know who this guy was. Like, they found a diamond in the rough coach, and now they're supporting him financially, and who knows where this thing can go for them now.
Well,
you look at national championship.
Yeah. That's right. And you're looking at what they're doing in the portal. Guys are like, hey, I want to play for that program.
Yeah.
And clearly money's part of that, maybe a big part of that. But I think looking at the way they play, what they're building, the coaching staff, and I thought it was cool that, and I know I'm banging this drum about the trenches, but the center is the offensive player of the game, which is symbolic of what that, they got 2 good running backs, but they're so good up front. And then they got Bob Bostad, the former longtime Wisconsin offensive line coach that was there for years and had all those.
That's really pissing off Wisconsin people, by the way. Like,
well, Bob
really
Bostad, I got to know him a little bit when I was on the beat, and just a phenomenal offensive line coach. And they're just so well constructed. Like, they look like the best team. I hope they win it all. I think it's just an unbelievable story, because I keep going back to when we were there. Was it 5 years ago or 4 years ago when they played there right after Iowa?
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago. Yeah.
Walking in there, it was, you didn't even know they had a game that day. There was just nobody out tailgating. It was Indiana football. And to think that you can turn it that quickly. And I know people are like, just do that. Do it. If Indiana can do it, anybody can do it. Well, if it was that easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
Everybody would have that success, Right. But it shows it can be done.
It was the Bostad had a great quote after the Rose Bowl, and this is hyperbolic too, but he said we're going up against a bunch of 5 stars, right, for Alabama, like guys that are on every Burnsie list. And he goes, we're a bunch of 2 stars. He goes, we're a bunch of truck drivers. We're a bunch of truck drivers. Like, now that's not totally true, but if your guys believe that, and that's the mentality that they play with, then you can't argue with it, right?
And don't you it cracked me up. We were watching that game. Kurt Cignetti's face during the games, just that deadpan look that he has, like no emotion, just unbelievable.
Yeah, the one video where he's like looking at the spot that keeps going,
so
like what people have done with that, like that's why I can never quit Twitter, even though it's just literally the worst place in the world, and it makes me want to break my phone. I can't wait till I live in the Appalachians with you, Chip, and I never have to worry about going on social media again. There's little things like that, like that people make hilarious. I've just been retweeting them the whole time, like. Me in the Chipotle line making sure I get extra guac, like looking at it. My wife making sure the dishwasher is loaded when I did it, like just they're so funny. And then you see the video where Sig did the shooter to McAfee in the end zone as they're about to run out of the tunnel. I mean, it's just the coldest thing of all time. It's just so badass. It just cracks me up. Like, somebody said, there's great lines on that too, which some of them can't even say on a family podcast. Like when the bartender brings me another rum runner without me having to ask, like it's just so good.
I need to read a deep dive on his personality, because his personality just cracks me up. Like the confidence, but then just like the facial and mannerisms, just cracks me up.
When it comes from the preparation, like because now people are sending out videos from him at coaching clinics talking about the program and how he does things, and it's not breaking news, but because everything's kind of the same. Every coach has a variation of something, right? The successful coaches, but it's easy to say, it's harder to live it and harder to do it. And the way he just rattles it off, talking about every play's a life of its own. You got 6 seconds. What happened after it doesn't matter. You move on to the next one. You do the best of your ability that way. And at the end of the day, you add it up and you see it. Like, he's just so formulaic. I mean, PJ's like that too, right? And there's no such thing as momentum, athletically, academically, socially, spiritually. These guys have their things, but it's hard to get people to live that way.
Yeah.
Where we're literally just going to play every single play as hard as we possibly can. And then we're going to move on to the next one. Like, it's hard to do. And that's why, but Saban's like that. And I also loved how he said, I don't need to, we're going to work when we're in the building, and then we're going to go home. We're not going to be here just to waste our time and flex and say, I slept in the office. Right. And so he's got a little new age to him as well, but it's a crazy story, and they are the heavy favorite, and they should be, Burnsie.
And they have some of the best. Just again, we spend all this time talking about Cignetti, and rightfully so. I mean, their defensive coordinator, he's one of the best in college football. He's the Broyles Award winner for a reason. The offensive coordinator's got Fernando Mendoza continuing to play well every single week. And again, they hit their guys, just the way that they're able to evaluate and then get the most out of these guys is something I think a lot of fans take for granted, where this is not normal. This is why Indiana is so good, is they can turn James Madison, transfer guy, into someone that can go toe to toe with someone who's 2 inches taller, stronger, more athletic. They just don't care. And they can they know what their type of player is, and they get the most out of them. Plus they have some of the best coaches in college football. Again, this is the type of thing. Everybody's been screaming for parity. I don't want to see Alabama win it all. I want to see somebody else. Well, we're going to find out if that's true, because I think Indiana is, as you said, I think the slight favorite to probably pull this thing off of the 4 teams.
Anything else that we've missed? This is a good deep dive. This is a good first episode of 2026. We feeling good about the show? Gigi, I don't know what you did to Gigi. We didn't hear from Gigi.
Yeah, thank God. Oh, my gosh.
I'm a little worried. Your screen went dark for a minute, and then we didn't hear Gigi anymore. So that's good. Anything else we need to get to, Burnsie? Anything you need to we should be looking for at GopherIllustrated.com?
Well, even as we were recording this podcast, they get another transfer portal guy who played 400 snaps for Joe Rossi as a true freshman last year, and Aiden West. So portal stuff continues to be hot and heavy. GopherIllustrated.com. I'm just hoping that Chip and his wife can go through this class so that they can save $17 over a year on their car insurance.
I have to do it in 4 years. It holds up every 4 years. So my wife's doing it, and in 4 years, I might need an actual driver's test in 4 years, like just to make sure I'm not dangerous on the roads.
Well, you're only dangerous because you're going too slow in the right lane. That you're going, 40 miles an hour when the minimum's 45.
Could be.
That's the only danger you have. Be careful out there today. I'm told it's icy. It was a little dicey getting home last night from Ann Arbor, Michigan. But be careful out there. Be safe, everybody. And go to Jack's Cafe. It's never dicey there. No transfer portal. No NIL. Just a great meal, just a great experience, just a great vibe. jackscafe.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. We've had some awesome YouTube numbers here recently. Even though Burnsie's mentioning, mid 90s and late 2000s twins, we're trying to be, with the young people and meet you where you are. So thank you to everybody that's been on the YouTube channel. You were saying, Ryan?
Well, I was just going to say, I think they're probably all big Matthew LeCroy fans, maybe a Christian Guzman amongst them. But as long as we continue to deliver Boof Bonzer meatballs right down the middle, that's all we can continue to do.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear. We'll try to, maybe go more around the Big Ten with the portal stuff next week as things settle in a little bit. We will have a national championship game to discuss as well. We will do all of that next week on the Parent Bear podcast.